Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tyler Barker. I serve as the coordinator within the Office of Parent and Family Programs here at Georgia Tech. I would like to welcome you to our Family Appreciation Week, which we have in substitute for our family weekend that is postponed until the spring 2021 semester. Today, we are talking about philanthropy and parent giving, and we are joined by two special guests, two great colleagues of ours in the Division of Student Life, Will McKenna and Emily Takieddine, who will introduce themselves in a few moments and tell you a little bit about what they do for the division. So we are so thankful to have them with us today. Parents and family members, if you have any questions for Emily or Will throughout the presentation, please feel free to utilize the Q&A chat box. Once again, if you have any questions for Emily or Will, please feel free to utilize the Q&A chat box, and we'll get to those at the end of the presentation. And so without further ado, I will turn it over to Emily and Will after we load up the presentation. If you give me a few moments. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Emily and Will.
Actually, Tyler, can you advance it one?
Yes.
Thank you. That's us. There we go. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for being here and for joining us today. I am Emily Takieddine. I'm the Director of Development for Parent Giving and the Division of Student Life.
And I am Will McKenna. I'm the Parent Fund Coordinator, and I work with Emily here in the Division of Student Life.
So our role jointly is really to support the Division of Student Life. We run a Parents Fund, which is the Parent Annual Fund. We facilitate a Parents Board, and we spend time talking with parents about transformational gifts to Georgia Tech. But first, we want to tell you a little bit about ourselves. So here is a picture of me and my little ones. They just finished remote schooling. Like many of you have younger children that are doing remote school. So you may see them make cameos back there. I've asked them not to, but you never know what happens. Important things to know about me is that I've spent my entire career in the higher ed and the K-12 space, really doing college admissions and grad school admissions first, and then spending the bulk of my career in development work. It is a privilege to work at Georgia Tech. It's a privilege to work with parents and with students to make this the best institution it possibly can be.
Next slide, Tyler. And a little bit about me. I actually was born and raised here in Atlanta. I am also a parent. My two sons keep me very busy. I also have two dogs, as you can see, Tucker and Penny, here in the middle. Unlike Emily, this is my first job in a development role specifically, but I have worked a lot of retail and retail management. I've worked in auto finance fields, a lot of sales and other areas throughout my career. I've also been involved with Georgia Tech my entire life. My dad was an alum, and he worked at Georgia Tech for 32 years before his retirement. So I've been on and around campus for almost my entire life. And then, like all good dads, I do love really bad jokes. So if you catch me in the right mood, which is just about any mood, I will have a great joke for you at the ready. So, Tyler? What my main role here at Tech is to work with parents through the Parents Fund. And the Parents Fund, if you could advance it just a little further, Tyler, is an unrestricted annual fund that's supported by the Georgia Tech parents and families. And one more, Tyler. It's all about the students. What this means is that we offer a lot of grants to students in multiple forms. We offer them to both student organizations and individual students that want to supplement their education with extracurricular activities. This can include both on-campus events like hosting speakers through the TEDx at Georgia Tech program, or the Ram and Rec Club's Teen Night program that normally would kick off in the fall. Obviously with COVID, we've kind of had to restructure some of how we do this, but we're hoping to get back on track going into the spring and for sure into next year. But then additionally, through the student leadership grants, we sponsor students as they attend a lot of educational leadership and service events all over the country. Again, this is another something that got kind of put on the back burner as we got through COVID, but I'll talk a little more about it. A lot of examples of these events include the National Conference for Undergraduate Research, the Forbes 30 Under 30s Scholar Summit, and even on alternative service breaks. These are all things that students come to us and they say, I want to attend this event, or I have been invited to attend this event, but I can't necessarily afford to. And we'll offer them a grant to help cover airfare or hotel room or whatever it might be so that we can facilitate their experience and help them kind of grow outside of the classroom. Tyler, if you click one more time. And then finally, it supports the Dean Stein and his discretionary fund, as well as the Student Temporary Assistance and Relief programs. And these programs help students that, for a variety of reasons, aren't unable to fulfill their basic needs. I'm going to talk a little more about those in just a minute because we've had an increased demand for these types of grants during the COVID outbreak. But on campus, it includes things like a student-run food pantry, housing assistance, and we even purchase graduation regalia. So some students who would otherwise not be able to walk across the stage, even though they have earned their degree, are able to do so. So now, next slide, Tyler. So why do we need the Parents Fund? Because it is an unrestricted annual fund, it allows the Division of Student Life a significant amount of flexibility to meet the needs of students. As I mentioned on the previous slide, we support a wide range of meaningful programming at Tech. These are the types of programs that will really help students prepare for life outside of Tech. It's things that are going to teach them soft skills like leadership, conflict resolution, project management, public speaking, all the things that you learn during your time in school that isn't calculus, all the things that you kind of take with you out into the world. And then additionally, it allows us to kind of communicate with you all the things that are going on around campus through our own newsletters, right? It gives us kind of a portal into the students' world outside of the classroom. And then finally, because we never really know what's around the corner, it helps us to kind of have a little bit of a reserve available for Dean Stein and the Division of Student Life to meet the needs of students, whatever that might be. Tyler, flip it over. And a great example of this is the Student Emergency Grant. Tyler, just go ahead and fill up the slide. There's a lot of information here. Thanks. So when the pandemic hit way back in March and we closed out campus, having the flexibility allowed us to pivot on a dime and turn from supporting these student events that were going to be held on campus that semester. And it allowed us to start offering a student emergency grant. We are fortunate in that institute leadership all around campus, whether it was the president and the provost, the Office of Development, the Alumni Association, all got behind this initiative. And it initially launched with $570,000, both from the Parents Fund and Roll Call, but it rapidly grew. Within the first week, we had over 477 grant requests for funding from students. And so we really relied on gifts from parents and gifts from alumni and gifts from the family of Georgia Tech to support these students in need. And this need, it ranged from travel costs. For those of you that had a student at the time, if you lived out of state, it was during spring break. So they might have gone home and not been able to come back and get their things. So they had to pay for a company to pack up their stuff. Other students weren't sure or weren't able to buy a ticket ahead of time because they weren't planning on coming home at spring break. And then all of a sudden, now they need to come home and they need to make these plans. Well, that need has evolved. And now we're looking at much more long-term things where parents that were supporting a student aren't in a place to do so, or students that had co-ops and internships scheduled for the summer that were going to provide them with money to support themselves through the fall, had those canceled or moved or changed in a way that they aren't able to bank that money ahead of time. So we were fortunate in that we did receive CARES Act funding to give us a little over $1.5 million for the spring and summer. And we also were fortunate that we've been able to increase the available funding. Initially, it was only $1,000 per student, and now we're offering up to $2,000 per student. So as of September 15th, just to give everybody a little insight, we've received over 2,500 requests, funded over 2,100 of them for just under $2 million. I will say that that number has increased since then. We're actually closer to $2.3 million in funding to students through your support and the support of the Institute as well. Next slide, Tyler.
So y'all, we promised in sort of the description of this program that we were going to talk about multi-generational family philanthropy. And we think we have a pretty incredible way to accomplish this, and it is through the Family Legacy Endowment. So what the Family Legacy Endowment is essentially, I think, the most impactful graduation present that you can give your child, because it comes along with an incredibly deep lesson about the power of philanthropy and the importance of supporting organizations that you love. What this looks like functionally is that you would make, as your child nears graduation, you would make a commitment to give a major gift to the Institute. A major gift at Georgia Tech is defined as any gift of $25,000 or more payable over 5 years. So the pledge period at Georgia Tech is 5 years. So with that $25,000 number, of course, it's $5,000 every year for 5 years till you get to that 25K. You would leave your major gift undesignated. So normally when you're making a major gift to an institution, you would say, I want it to go to the student organization or my child's sorority or a lab that they worked in. I'm sorry? Oh, sorry, I got interference for a second. But for this program, you leave it undesignated, because what happens is that right around graduation, we bring your child in. We let them in on the surprise, because parents usually have it be a surprise, that this gift has been made in their honor. It is I'm going to use Will as an example. It is the McKenna Family Legacy Endowment. And then we give them the privilege and responsibility of deciding where to designate that gift. We tell them that we want them to choose the area on campus that has had the biggest impact on their experience at Georgia Tech. And in that way, it's sort of the power of your gift, but really the heart of what that gift is the students and the soon-to-be alums. It is incredibly impactful. Will and I get to be part of those ceremonies every year, and it's really a moment that students deeply feel both the transition to adulthood and to being a young alum at Georgia Tech, and also their own responsibility as a young philanthropist. And so it's really, really a lovely, lovely program. It is unique within the university landscape, and would be thrilled, if this is something of interest, would be thrilled to share more with you. And I'm going to put my email address in the announcements, and so that way folks can email me directly if they are interested. Tyler, one more slide. Aha. And here's one of the other really fun parts of the work that we do. So under the direction of Dean John Stein, we facilitate approximately 40 couple parent board that is representative of the Georgia Tech parent community. It's folks from all over the country. They meet twice a year, normally in person, although our meeting coming up will be virtual, of course. And the Parents Board really serves in 3 sort of important roles. And the first is to serve as an informal advisory group for administrators. And so every time we meet together, we talk through some questions that the dean might have, or a challenge that he's facing, and asks them to share their perspective based on their role as parents and parent board members. We also ask them to be philanthropic leaders, and so they help us make some decisions about parent fund grant applications, and they also make gifts to the Parents Fund every year. And then that third sort of piece of their role is really to be advocates in the community. And that looks like everything from making welcome calls to newly accepted families. Some of our families will make peer-to-peer solicitation calls on Giving Tuesday when we reach out to Georgia Tech parents to ask them to make a gift to the Institute. And they host events and serve on panels and things like that. This is a critical way that parents engage in the work of the Institute from an advisory, from an advocacy, and from a philanthropic standpoint. And frankly, it's such a lovely group of folks. I am privileged that I get to work with them. Our board meeting is coming up in a few weeks, and so we're eagerly anticipating that as well. So if that's of interest too, it is a nominating process. I present a slate of nominees to the dean every semester, and he makes decisions based on sort of where the geographic need is and things like that to make sure that the Georgia Tech full parent population is represented on the parents board. One more slide, Tyler. Then that is the slide. There you go. Y'all consider ways that you would like to engage both as volunteer leaders and as philanthropists with Georgia Tech. And so we strongly hope that you'll consider making a parent fund gift this year. All of which, as Will explained, goes to deeply support students and the sense of community at Georgia Tech. If the Parent Legacy Fund is something that you want to learn more about, there's my email address. Please reach out to me and we can sit down and start that deeper conversation. And then Will added this, and I think this is so important. Talk to your student about how they might be able to use the Parents Fund, either through a leadership grant for next semester, perhaps, or through the student organization grant process, or if they're in an emergency situation, through the Student Relief Fund. So we're thrilled to take questions. Will, is there anything that I've forgotten on that last slide?
No, Emily, you crushed it.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Thank you so much, Emily and Will, for that wonderful presentation. Just as a colleague, I've definitely seen that firsthand with the great work that you do and the impact that it has on students. So now what we'll do is open it up for questions. Parents and family, please feel free to drop any questions that you may have in the Q&A chat box. Get to those. I do have a question for Will. If you wouldn't mind, the Student Relief Fund that you touched on earlier, will students be able to access that in the spring if they need it?
That's a great question. I'm not sure is the answer. It depends entirely on funding. We were fortunate in that we received the CARES Act funding to get us through the fall, but the CARES Act funding ends at the calendar year. So if we can find the funds to continue to support students, it is something that we would like to do. But again, it is not something that we are necessarily guaranteed. So I will say that I am working currently to find funds for it, and we'll be sure to let all the students know if we do. So.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that.
You know, one of the questions that I hear folks ask in relation to the Family Legacy Endowment is where students ultimately decide to direct that Family Legacy gift. And the answer is that students, I'm amazed at the breadth of sort of impactful places on campus that students want to direct their gifts every year. And so it's really everything from a student who worked in a lab that was doing really incredible things, and he wanted to make sure that that lab continued with its funding. And so he gave there are student organizations. So our one of our student sort of public health organizations was the beneficiary of Family Legacy Endowment. We have gotten Family Legacy Endowments that specifically support students from, we had a student who wanted to give to students who came from the same state that he was from. So it really can be anything and everything. And it's really lovely, I think, as a parent to hear from your child where they want to direct it, because that really gives you some wonderful insight into what was that really meaningful piece of their tech experience. Sure.
Relates to a large gift. Is it possible for a family or multiple families to team up together and donate a large amount of money to one cause or one building?
Yeah. The short answer is yes, absolutely. So a really wonderful example of that, y'all, I think I'm getting some background on my side. I hope you're not hearing it. I apologize if you are. A really wonderful example of that is the Brant Fritz Dean's Chair. So we had two board families, parents board families, who endowed the Dean of Students chair a few years ago. They worked together on that endowment, and it is named for both of them. So that's a really lovely recent example of that very thing happening, Tyler.
Additionally, Tyler, if families are looking for ways to expand their gift, most companies that offer charitable matches, any gift to Georgia Tech is through the Georgia Tech Foundation. We are a registered 501(c), and they are eligible for most company matches. So that's to the parents fund, or if you are creating a larger endowment size gift.
Excellent point.
We'll have another question for you. I know that Georgia Tech in your office has participated in National Giving Day in the past. Considering COVID, will that still be celebrated this year, or will it be postponed to next year?
You will likely see something out of National Giving Day, just because we would be remiss to let that go by. We also know that everybody's situation right now is very different, and quite frankly, the end of November is a long time away, right? A lot can still happen between now and then, and we understand that, but at some level, we need to keep our goals in mind and what we need to accomplish. Lacey has just asked if we would share what National Giving Day is. National Giving Day is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. So you have Thanksgiving and you have Black Friday, which who knows what that'll look like this year. Then you have Cyber Monday, which will likely be enormous this year. And then after you've bought everything for everybody else, it's time to look at Giving Tuesday, which is that next Tuesday, where you can kind of think about the causes and the charities and those things that mean the most to you at that time. And it's our hope that you'll consider the Parent Fund and Georgia Tech on some level, as we also need support and do things that impact your students and their friends and the people that they spend every day with. So you will, yes. Short answer, yes. You will see something around Giving Tuesday.
You will.
Perfect. That's good news to hear. Emily, I have a quick question for you. If I'm a parent and my student graduates and 2 years or 3 years down the line, and I would like to, make a gift to Georgia Tech, would I still contact your office or another office?
You would. And so our office works with current parents and former parents. Tyler, I feel like you're asking me all these questions that I have great recent examples of. I just had a dad who sent me a note. His child graduated 2 years ago. He knew about the Family Legacy Endowment, but they weren't quite in a spot that they were ready to do it. It stayed in the back of his head. And he reached out to me 3 months ago to say, okay, I remember this. I'm finally ready to do it. It's a little bit of a belated graduation present, but it is no less impactful. And that's exactly what he's doing. That Family Legacy Endowment is going to support students a scholarship for Scheller. That's what the student or the young alum now decided he wanted it to go to.
That's amazing.
Yeah, isn't it? Oh, it made me so happy. It's such a lovely family.
Better late than never, I guess.
Exactly.
For our international parents, has there ever been international families serving on the parent board, or what does that look like from an international mom or couple? And we would like to be involved with your office.
We would love an interested international family to join the parents board. We have had international families in the past, and frankly, especially in that sort of informal advisory role in which the parent boards, in that way that the parents board helps out, an international perspective on the board is important, and we are missing that. We had an international family who graduated last year, and our hope is that we can continue doing work and identify a family. But if there's somebody on this call and there's an interest, please reach out to me. I would love to tell you more about the parents board.
Great, thank you so so much for sharing that. What we'll do is just give it a few more moments, a last call for questions or any comments from our attendees. If you have any, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A.
I could tell a joke.
Don't do it, Will. Don't do it.
All right.
I was gonna let you squeeze one in.
Okay.
Joke of the
Don't do it also. There's consensus.
All right.
Maybe next time, Will. Maybe next time.
You have to meet me in person or over the phone.
Well, great. Well, Emily and Will, thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to meet with us and chat with us about philanthropy and parent giving. Such great information shared with us today. And we just like to thank everybody for attending the webinar. And please know that this will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel, parents.gatech.edu, under the Stay Connected tab under virtual recordings. And so we'll have that for you. But once again, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks, Tyler.
Good to talk. Thanks, everybody.